if you're going to have AI write your listing descriptions, I get that's time saver. Tell it to calm down. Calm down on the adjectives. Calm down on the adjectives. Not everything is opulent. Let's calm down. Tell it to talk like a human being. Tell it to talk like you. That'll help you a little bit.
Yeah, if it talks, mine spells words wrong. Still, he is saying that 2008 is tougher than today. I have disagree with that. I respect his response. I think today's market's a lot tougher than the 08 market was.
I think there's a thing about, well, one, everybody experiences things differently. So in 2008 was certainly harder for some people than this market and vice versa. I think we tend to not give credence to how hard things are when we're going through them, and we realize how hard they were in hindsight, but every day we're just getting up and living every day, right? So I think that we'll look back on this particular market and go, wow, how do we get through that? In hindsight, it'll seem harder than it seems in this moment.
And then someone commented on our shorts and they're like, oh, you would go back in time and just spam all your friends and family? Yes, I would. Yeah, I will 100%. Yes. And if they didn't use me, then I would just troll them.
Yes, and shame them.
DFW, turn it up. This week in DFW Real Estate. The weekly podcast built for agents who actually get paid. Market moves, listing heat, closing streets. DFW agents. Let's eat.
What episode is this? 9?
10.
No, it's not.
Yep. Episode.
this last time.
Yep.
10.
10.
I thought we did 7, 8 last time.
Nope.
That was 2 times ago.
Yep.
Was it?
Yep.
All right. Episode 10.
Definitely this in.
Yeah, episode 10 in the books. Yeah.
In the books.
See y'all next week.
Dude, this past week, it was a lot this week.
There was a lot. Some weeks it feels like we're saying the same thing over and over, but this week.
You know, I almost made a post today. There's 2 posts I almost made. The first one in our DFW Realtors Facebook group about, I want to know how many, brokerages, since you've been licensed, how many brokerages an agent's been at? That just, just kind of, there was just something on my mind about, is there a correlation between successful agents that have like less than 3 brokerages under their belt?
Yeah, like longevity at the same place. That'd be interesting.
And then the other thing was that, in sales, in all sales 101, it's we need to shut up. We need to do less talking, more listening. And this past week, we did that agent to CEO event with Danny B.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, and I can't say his last name. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Baltsulkin.
Baltsulkin.
Yeah.
Balls Sulkin. So Danny B. And it was great. A little over 100 agents RSVP'd. Of course, rain stops agents from going out, and had like 40, 50 agents or something like that show up.
Yeah.
And there was a group of presenters there, and they all had great information. And, this was the first time that you and I got to share and present. And I feel we're pretty good presenters.
We've got experience. Good. Sometimes. Experienced. Sure.
Yes.
We always say something.
Yes. And this was our first time to talk about and share our thoughts about how we can continue helping empowering the agents. And we did our presentation that was called Beyond the Closing. Mm-hmm. And it was about how to really focus on increasing the lifetime value of a client, and how to keep that client to continue to provide value to that client well after the closing, so that hopefully they think about you when they hear about someone buying, selling, or investing in real estate, and they send that referral, or they come back and do repeat business. Mm-hmm. And it's through this our utility concierge program and essential services that we can help. We can help our agents just continue to provide value and earn income off of it and increase the lifetime value of their client. And I don't know about you, I haven't been more excited about something in a long time. So we had 7 people get on our wait list. If you want to know what that is, it's getresidualagent.com/wait list. Go check it out. But I did a call with an agent yesterday. She had seen one of our posts and was like, tell me more about this. This is kind of in alignment with what I'm talking about with my agent group and everything else like that. And I felt like I was talking 1,000 miles an hour. I wouldn't shut up because it's that excitement is where and you know that this is the best thing that we can help agents with empowerment, other than giving them the 7-step playbook, which we're going to talk about today, of getting and converting and attracting more business. But this helps them actually be able to provide value and increases their money. Yeah. And it doesn't cost them anything.
Well, it speaks to two things. And this is what we spoke about earlier this week when we were talking about, the event being called Agent to CEO. And we've both been fortunate in our careers to transition from individual agents to running organizations, which is quite a bit different than being a sales agent. But when you're a sales agent, one of the things that you're constantly striving to do is provide more value to your database, because that's how you stay top of mind. That's how you generate referrals. And we have a certain amount of tools that we regularly use to provide value. Part of it is just lead generating and making the calls every day. That's the having conversations, getting up and doing the work. And then it's also, how do I provide more value in regards to your home ownership experience? So we do things like providing CMA updates and market reports and all those types of things, vendor referrals, all that type of stuff, right? And so what we're building appeals to, how do I actually provide more value to my clients, which then in turn gets their reticular activators up, helps you stay more top of mind as an agent, which in turn generates more referrals. It keeps the referral machine moving forward, and that creates your own self-contained, ever-growing business. And then on the other side, as a CEO, you're constantly thinking about, how do we capture more revenue per transaction with the least amount of friction possible, right? Yeah. That's an important part, is the least amount of friction possible.
Right, because what would a coach say, or what would anybody you're asking say? It would be, well, just charge more commission.
Charge more commission, go deep, don't go wide, right? Yeah, charge more commission.
Charge more commission.
Charge a marketing fee.
Marketing fee, transaction fee, processing fee, whatever.
Right.
And that sounds great.
Yep.
And by the way, you should be charging a marketing fee or a transaction fee. In my opinion, you should be adding that in there, just because the cost to deliver and service a transaction has gone up. That's a whole different topic for a show, but that's also not necessarily it shouldn't necessarily be padding your bottom line.
Right. And exactly. And so, it's easy to compete with that, right? If your only way of generating more revenue is to charge a higher fee than everyone else, then that's going to hit a ceiling of scale. There's limitations to that over time, and it's easier to compete with that. It's easier to beat that out, right? So we think about these things as at the leadership level on, how do we generate more revenue per transaction? How do we get more of the pie? But we have to do it in the most frictionless way possible, right? You and I, over the course of our careers, have explored a lot of different vertical integrations. Some of them we've actually gone down that road and partnered and built organizations that are adjacent, that capture revenue, which has been awesome. And they've become their own standalone companies. Some of which we've explored and we've gone, that is way too noisy and too much friction, and I don't think that we can do it. What comes to mind is when we explored the title partnerships years ago, and actually opening a title company was the only way back then that you could capture that revenue. And we looked into it, we're like, the cost up front is incredible. And back then, the pro formas, you realize what kind of scale you need to have. The margins are incredibly slim. When we looked at it, we're like, that's just the lift to do that. It's high friction, low return. You got to scale it, right? So we didn't go down that path, but we're always thinking as leaderships or as leaders, how do we capture more revenue per transaction? And as team leaders, how do we help our agents capture more revenue per transaction outside of just charging more than everybody else? And this is an industry-wide question that we're all trying to answer right now. And so what we're excited about bringing to the agent are ways to not only increase your revenue per transaction in a frictionless way, but then also generate more referrals by owning more of the home ownership experience that your clients are going through. It helps you stay top of mind throughout the entire journey as a homeowner and generate more referrals, which in turn, it just helps you build a self-propelling database.
Well, we talked about providing value in that presentation. And as we asked and surveyed the audience there, we're saying, we asked one lady, how hard is it? What would you do to provide value? And she said, call and talk to your past client and offer a market analysis. I said, Great. That's awesome. What if you just sold that house 30 days ago? Mm-hmm. Are you calling that client up and saying, hey, how's the move-in going? You get everything set up? Do you want me to provide a market value report? Right? That's not valuable.
And here's the thing. It's probably not valuable 30 days after they bought the home. And even 3 years after they bought the home, it's great. But are there any other tools in your tool belt, right? We're always looking for how do we provide more value. That's what we're talking about here. But we've asked that question to agents hundreds of times, and market report and CMA are the things that always come up.
100%.
Which I'm not saying don't stop doing those. Keep doing those.
Yeah, this is
we want to layer on.
Yeah, this is a layered approach. So we said, hey, how easy would it be, especially 30 days or 60 or 90 days after they've closed on their new house? Maybe that new home freshness has worn off, and they all their endorphins and everything is just now settled, and they're seeing maybe where they want to improve the home or what they're looking for. Maybe they need pest control. Maybe they need a painter. Maybe whatever vendors they need. And if you could offer that to them and be that conduit where you could make their stress go away, that you could find them the best person, they can, the best prices out there. Oh, and by the way, you get a little compensation if they utilize those services. How great would that be?
100%. And as they're moving in, right? One, again, frictionless, running this at scale. So this is not you taking responsibility for doing these things. This is you having a team that is doing this on your behalf. Jesse is a great example. When Jesse will probably never sell his home, but when he does, he'll go, and he's the type of guy that's going to shop for the best electricity rate, like a dog. Like me, I bought a home last year. I have no idea how much I pay for electricity. To be honest with you, my wife sets that stuff up. I just do, or I'm a brand name guy. So like for internet, I was like, who's the name I know, and that's what it cost, and then that's what it is. But if I extrapolate that over the next however many years that I own my house, I could actually pay tens of thousands of dollars more because I didn't go and find better deals for the same service, which in a deregulated market, there are usually better deals than we're getting. As an agent, when my clients do a deal with me, if I'm able to say, hey, one of the things my team does is we provide value in terms of helping you find the best possible rates on all of the essential services you're going to pay for anyway. That's a service that I provide. One, we talked about this on previous episodes. How can agents provide more value during and beyond the transaction? How can we stand apart? Well, having more of the homeownership experience under your umbrella is one way. Two, if that creates ancillary revenue for you in your business, fantastic. You've increased the value you provide to your clients and the revenue that you generate per transaction. And then what you've also done is given yourself a long-term opportunity to provide that ongoing value and set the expectation that's part of your service. Every year, there's going to be a good deal that you can go reshop for your clients and say, hey, so-and-so's, buying market share right now, whether it's insurance, electricity, internet, whatever. We just shopped your rates for you. You can save however much a month. Why don't we get you switched over? By the way, my goal is to serve 50 clients this year. Who do you know that you can hook me up with that might be thinking about buying or selling a home? Also do the market report and all that other type of stuff. But your team should be doing this, and you should be providing that value as an agent. So anyway, that's what we were speaking on, and I'm just so excited to help empower agents with what we're building.
Well, and at the same time, if you don't jump on the train and take advantage of it, your brokerage is already doing it. Lenders are already doing it. Insurance companies are already doing it. And they're doing that so that they can capture that side to provide the value and the data and the remarketing to it. So one thing, all I'd ask, if you're kind of intrigued and you want to hear more, it doesn't cost you anything. It helps brand you, right? So it's going to keep it in your brand. The whole objective as well is to continue implementing and adding to your 36 touch campaign, maybe a 52 touch campaign, so that on every time that your client, your customer gets an email about saving or shopping, it's on behalf of you as the agent. So if you're interested in hearing more about it, it's free. So go ahead and get on the wait list. GetResidualAgent.com. GetResidualAgent.com/waitlist.
Yeah.
And take advantage of that because, again, like I said, your brokerage, your insurance agencies, and your lenders are already doing so. So don't miss out on it, and it adds to your bottom line.
100%. We got a couple of segments today. Let's start diving in. We're going to be all over the place a little bit, but but in a good way.
Yes,
good way. There's an interesting story going on with this TREC investigation, and we want to be politically correct, but I think it's an interesting thing to touch on.
Well, there's a watchdog group out there, right? And there's a watchdog group, Brian, that I sent you this article last week, and I said, hey, let's do this. And then we did. Last week's show was freaking phenomenal and awesome. So make sure to watch that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Join their Facebook group, DFW Realtors. Eventually, DFW Realtor Network.com will put you into that group. So go join that. But it was that TREC investigation was basically, or this, hopefully this investigation is this watchdog group wants to turn it into, is that in order to become a licensed real estate agent through TREC, you have to be a citizen or legally here in the United States.
A lawful resident.
Lawful resident, right?
From what I understand, yes.
And so what this watchdog group is saying is that TREC doesn't have any verification processes. You do your fingerprints, but there's no verification process other than self-reporting by the individual. And so, this watchdog group went to TREC and asked for them to provide data on how many license holders are non-citizens or lack social security numbers. And TREC stated there was no records available.
Yeah. Interesting. So Jesse just highlighted this there. So even TREC's fingerprinting vendor allows using out-of-state driver's licenses or foreign passports. So the background check doesn't independently verify, those types of statuses. I don't think anybody in this room has massively hard opinions on this topic. I just think it's an interesting conversation because I think if we were to think about if I was to move out of the United States and go sell real estate somewhere else, I'm handling transactions that are the largest transactions most people will ever do in their life. They're worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Should the governing bodies do more to enforce what it claims are the standards as far as status and residency and things like that? I don't have an opinion on it. I just think it is it's interesting that TREC didn't have any real process to verify the things that it says it requires. I think that's interesting.
Well, that and it's the state of Texas has other licensing divisions. What is it? The TDLR. What does that stand for, Jesse? Texas Department of
Licensing and registration or regulation or something like that.
Yeah. So the TDLR, the agency that oversees the licenses of electricians, barbers, cosmetologists, and dog breeders. They
among others. There's a laundry list.
Yeah, a lot more. They approved a new rule requiring proof of lawful presence for all professional license that goes into effect May 1st of 2026. Now, TREC is not under that TDLR division, and so the kind of concern that the watchdog group pointed out here was that why does a dog grooming license in Texas now have stricter immigration verification than a real estate license that lets someone handle $400,000 or more, really expensive transactions?
It's an interesting question. Yeah. Again,
Yes.
I don't have hard opinions on it, but I think it's interesting to sometimes observe and investigate the inconsistencies with which we enforce regulation across different industries. We do have a lot of real estate agents in America. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
So it's just something, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how set we are on dog groomers, but we got a lot of agents.
Yeah, I don't have a set stance on this. I just found it interesting that, I remember having to do the fingerprints, having to show ID. I just, it felt like a very thorough process and background check.
You're right. Well, I think what it is in my eyes, this doesn't really have anything to do necessarily with our opinions on immigration status or anything like that. What I do think it does is it showcases a lack of accountability to what TREC says its own standards are, if that makes sense. Yep. Right? TREC does say that its standard is lawful residency of some sort, but when the watchdog group investigated and even Pride, basically they said there's no record keeping and they don't know how they enforce their own standards. So then the question becomes, what other things is TREC supposed to do for its agent body that it doesn't really have accountability, in regards to its own standards? I think that's, from my perspective, that's the important thing to consider in this conversation is, who holds TREC accountable to TREC's enforcement of their own policies?
I mean, look, they're already dropping the ball because look at the Realm rollout, the new portal, which was that has to be one of the worst rollouts I've ever seen.
Wasn't good. There's like months that some agents couldn't use the system.
And it's still a problem today.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to renew my broker entity license and it won't let me renew it.
Yeah. I mean, people have been stuck in that black hole and that affects people's careers, so it kind of begs the question, who holds TREC accountable to the things they're supposed to be, providing?
Well, and you look at like the DFW Realtor Facebook page and you look at how many comments, how many times has somebody asked the question, hey, I'm stuck in registration. What do I do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably 2 or 3 a week that we get
it's all
at least.
And that's just our group.
Yeah.
And I believe that TREC has it runs on a skeleton crew. Because if I remember correctly, like years ago, they let go of a lot of the people in that department. And so they're just running.
Yeah.
I think like 3 or 4 people in there. There's not a lot. Because I can tell you right now, I email all the time. I never get a response back.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to pay money and that will go to the state.
Right. No, 100%.
Yeah, it's insane. So, that's the biggest thing is like just the Realm portal rollout caused this widespread delay, and some agents weren't able just to work for months. These were new agents, people trying to renew their licenses, and they I just don't know how you could drop the ball on that. And then, like the Watchdog group said, now you can't even you don't even have the right software that can produce documentation showing how it verifies basic eligibility requirements, like any status.
That's all it is. And that's what we're talking about. Again, this doesn't have anything to do with our personal opinions on immigration status or anything like that. It's just, if you have a regulation that you are committed to enforcing, but you don't have any accountability over showing whether or not you actually do it, then that it remains true for every other policy and regulation that TREC is supposed to enforce, is my opinion. And so I think that these watchdog groups do provide an important service in making sure that they have eyes and are observing, does TREC actually do what it says it does, and is it accountable for enforcing its standards?
Jesse's on the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation.
All right, let's talk about the things that are on here.
If you go down, combative sports as a regulation has a licensing. What is that?
I like the auctioneers.
Auctioneers.
Yeah.
I love the barbers.
You would think the auctioneer would kind of be under the.
I imagine the combative sports is like Texas boxing license.
Probably so.
MMA.
Yeah.
Electric vehicle charging station. So again, like
laser hair removal. Well, you are using lasers.
Yeah. Licensed breeders. Right. So like if you look at all this, there's a lot more requirements here on under the TLDR than there is on TREC. So that you should think that, in my opinion, why are they all not the same?
Yeah, we shouldn't everything just be under here,
right? Isn't it all this very similar regulations?
Weather modification. That's cool. So if you're doing cloud seeding,
yeah,
that's probably
allegedly.
Yeah, chemtrails. Yeah. You don't want to have a stance on immigration, but you're going to bring up weather seeding and chemtrails.
Okay. Those are not the same thing. You guys know that cloud seeding is a real thing. That's not a conspiracy theory.
I don't know if this is that kind of show.
No, it's not. No, that's the other one that Jesse does. Make sure to go to his Facebook page. So let's So the 7 steps, Brian. Like, I mean, we can't beat a dead horse on this. Let's see what the Watchdog group does. And first off, honestly, my personal opinion is I don't really care. Just fix the Realm portal.
100%.
Let me renew my license and make it so much easier and take my money, please. Look, the 7-step playbook for really building your best year. And on last week's show, we talked about this the tough market, and you said tough market for whom? Right. Jason Northcutt commented in the Facebook group on that. He's like, I love Brian's his response back is tough market, tough for whom? And what I would say is that what we're seeing is that agents they need guidance. They need better guidance. They need better proven playbooks that they can go and implement day one and start to feel like they're gaining momentum.
So if we just want to get really actionable about 7 things that you can do in this market right now to start to either generate more business, capture business that's already in your world, at the end of the day, sell more houses. The first one ask you a question. What keeps buyers in a state of inaction? Why do buyers say, not right now, now's not the right time, we're going to wait till next year, or we're going to wait till whenever? What is it that keeps buyers from taking action?
I think part of it is they constantly hear that the market's going to collapse. I mean, how many times do we hear the market's collapsing? The market's collapsing. I think it's part of it.
So I would say misinformation or lack of information, lack of certainty, lack of clarity. At the end of the day, it's insecurity around making a big purchase.
Well, so they have that, the crash. You're also, I mean, I saw a news article today that Plano home value prices dropped by 5%.
Yeah.
And, logically, when we start thinking about it, buying a home or selling a home is emotional, right? But we try to justify things through logic as well. And they're like, why would I buy something that's losing value?
Yeah.
And so you've got waiting for the crash, or the crash is happening. You've got the media saying and reporting, hey, values have dropped. And so, we're not here to buy something that loses value. Right. Because we've taught that real estate is an appreciating asset. So it's going to go up forever.
Right.
The cost to buy a home is too high.
Yeah. Okay. So the cost to buy a home is too high. We don't know we normally, if I'm a buyer prospect, I can't usually tell you too high in relation to what, right? I don't have a lot of context. I'm insecure about buying a home because maybe prices have gone down, and there's a lot of information out there that might not be totally accurate that just makes me feel like I'm not sure if this is the right time. So I just stay in a place of inaction, right? Whereas we know, being in this industry for a long time and being professional investors and going through several market cycles, if you tell me that prices have dropped 12.5% over the last couple of years, like, I'm trying to figure out what I can buy, right? I know that it's a better time to buy. So there's an information gap.
Well, let me ask you this, Brian. You bought a house last year, right? That was yours and Lady's first time you were a first time home buyer.
As far as my homestead, yes.
Yes. So, and that's a whole different, and that's actually, I'm glad you clarified that, because you bought investment real estate.
Yes.
Which is not emotional. You lived in an apartment. You're like, and why would I buy my own house for a while? Like, I don't want to take care of something. You're setting,
we didn't have kids back then.
Didn't have kids, setting down roots. And so you decided to buy last year, when, if we look at the market, every indicator would say now's not a good time to buy.
The home that I bought was listed for over $100,000 more 2 years ago than we ended up purchasing it for.
Right. But why?
I was psyched about that. Most buyers would be like, oh, it's a bad time.
Correct.
Right.
But at the same time, what made you decide to buy a home last year?
So it was the right time in my life, which is why people buy homes in the first place. People usually don't make decisions. People don't want to make a decision based solely on finances. They want to make a decision based on life stage. For us, we had a child now. I had lived in apartments my entire life because I'm a minimalist. I like small spaces, and I didn't have any kids. And so now it's time to get the homestead, go from just being an investor to buying my own home. And so we made that decision. Now, for me, it was much easier because I didn't come with the baggage of the same insecurity that most first-time home buyers, but home buyers in general, come with, in the sense that home prices were declining throughout the last few years. For lots of home buyers, that would seem scary because it feels like it's going to keep going down. For me, I was very excited that prices had declined, because that means I'm going to get equity on the other side when prices rebound in the future.
Let me ask you this. How long have you and Lady been married?
I should know this. I'm kidding. 9 years.
9 years. And there's a cost of waiting, right? If you and Lady were to have bought a home that first year of your marriage 9 years ago, how much more equity would you have today if you still own that home 9 years ago?
A lot.
A lot. So we look at this, and while you have some great reasons why you didn't want to buy, you're a minimalist, right? There's also something, I think, where we don't want to make the wrong decision of settling down on.
Sure. And in our case, a little different because we did buy a lot of real estate.
You bought, yes, but
for most buyers,
even if you didn't, most buyers have very similar reasons for what you just gave. And there's a lot of buyers that wanted to stay renting because they don't want the the maintenance hassle or the upkeep.
Exactly.
But then we go look at the other side of it. 9 years ago, prices were a lot lower, and you would have had a lot more equity. You could have refinanced and done a cash out and bought more real estate. So if we look at it, the understanding of how to reframe it.
Yes.
And ask those questions, because this is mastering the art of unfreezing buyers. And I think that what ends up happening a lot of times is, we hear someone, they're thinking about buying. You're like, you should definitely buy, Brian. Yeah, it's a great time to buy. It's a great time to buy. And we come off as like, why? You're not even asking questions. You're just telling people it's a great time to buy.
It's a great time to buy.
Right. And what we always tell people, just like you said, that the best time to buy will be the right time when it's time for you. Right. It's always a great real estate market depending on the situation it's in.
Yep.
It's always a bad market depending on the situation you're in.
Sure.
There's time that people during COVID where their income didn't go up and they were really impacted and affected. It was not a great time for them.
Right. Yeah.
For others, there was an amazing time when it came to appreciation, everything else like that. So when we look at it, we got to understand the master of unfreezing buyers and using, and understanding buyer psychology counseling.
Yeah, 100%. So this becomes being the economic advisor of choice for your real estate prospects. So understand that if you have buyers that are potential buyer prospects that are on the fence right now, they're the we're going to wait and see crowd, which there's a lot of them out there. You can be using tools in your business right now to be having better conversations. If you're not speaking with AI every single day and saying, hey, I need you to help me develop a one-pager. And the one-pager is going to show the cost of waiting for another 5 years or buying a home now. And I don't want it to just be simple. I want you to have a conversation with me. I want you to think about forecasts for the real estate market from several different sources. I want you to break down cost of waiting from a payment and equity standpoint, all that type of stuff. And I want you to ask me questions to help me understand what it is that I'm presenting. You could come up with some real tangible assets that will do two things. One, they will help you become educated on how to have these better conversations with your buyers. And then two, they become tangible pieces of value that you can send your buyer prospects and say, hey, this is why it is, the time to buy is whenever it makes sense for you. The time not to buy is whenever it doesn't make sense for you. But here's the cost of staying put for another 5 years. Here's what your equity difference will look like, forecasted and things like that. You'd be amazed at how people will take action when they have more knowledge.
So nowadays, by the way, the lender that the Good Home team works with does this. They train our agents on this. They actually have a built-in calculator on their website that you can go mess around with, and then you can print the PDF one-pager. Now, if your lender doesn't do that, reach out to us. We'd be happy to set you up with that and have a conversation. But you also have Claude. You have ChatGPT that you can go and say, hey, I want to build out a calculator. And I want it to be the cost of waiting. And then you set your parameters on it. And you need to find what historically the average annual appreciation rate is. And just use that. You can use 3%, 3.5%, 4%, and build that in. In fact, you probably build all three of those in there. 3, 3.5, and 4.
Have it build different scenarios.
And then you take today's interest rate and look at the cost of waiting. Are they waiting for a lower interest rate? So it could be today's rate of 6.375 versus if it went down to 5.75 in 5 years. What is that cost difference for you, and where is your payment structure going to be at? So that's just something most people are visual. You can tell them all the best information, but if you don't have it visually backed with all that, then it a lot of times it just falls on deaf ears. Maybe you're over talking their head and they're like, yeah, I get it. And in their head, they're like, I actually don't understand any of this crap, but they don't want to tell you that because most people don't like to look like they don't know.
True. I mean, seriously, if your conversation was, hey, I understand it feels like it's a scary time out there. Let's jump on a 15-minute Zoom call. One of the things that I do for all my clients is I walk them through using a proprietary tool that I've built and that my team has built, that shows you future casts what home ownership versus staying put looks like through different scenarios. I'd love to walk you through it. I think it'll give you a lot of clarity on whether right now is the time to buy. And if that doesn't convert the client, guess what? You still provided them a lot of value. They're going to be a referral source for you. They're going to be a future client for you. Again, this all comes back to how to provide more value to the people in our world.
Love it. And then you hear this a lot, but owning your database, right? We talk about this all the time. back then, when you first started, were you really focused on your database?
I wasn't focused on it at all. It's one of the things that I would change if I could go back in time.
Likewise. And then someone commented on our shorts and they're like, oh, you would go back in time and just spam all your friends and family? Yes, I would. Yeah, I would 100%. Yes. And if they didn't use me, then I would just troll them.
Yes, and shame them.
Yeah. And then unfriend them. They would move out of that. Remember when T-Mobile had was it your favorite 5?
Your favorite 5 plan?
Yeah. It'd be like, you're moving out of my favorite 5 plan. Yeah. But owning your database like it's your only asset.
Yes.
And let's visualize this. This is like let's say you've got an acre, right? And that acre is nicely groomed. And you've got animals on there that you don't want to get out. What do you put up?
Fence.
And if they can jump over the fence, what do you put up?
A higher fence.
A high fence.
And it's electric.
Oh, it shocks them and keeps them in. Right? But owning your database is probably more important than it ever has been.
Well, I mean, we even, we kind of put this here in our show preview, like it's your only asset. Well, it really is your only asset in a real estate business. I mean, there's some other things that you could say are your assets, but the reality is the relationships that you build with your database is really your only asset in a real estate business.
Well, Gary Keller in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, the Red Book, talks about your 36 touch campaign. And that was the first time I ever really heard about that. I'm sure that was I'm sure that was built in and involved from some marketing books and everything else like that. But what is 36 touch? What does that mean? Like it's even evolved from the MREA book to saying it probably needs to be a little bit more, but it can't just be text and email.
No.
Right? It needs to be, again, we gave something at the very beginning of this show which is part of our getresidualagent.com/waitlist. So you can start providing more and more value.
Yep.
Because the value that we provide, it's easy. Any coach, any people that go on podcasts, just provide value, Brian. If you provide value, if you provide the value, they will come.
Absolutely.
Right?
There's the big gap there. It's like, okay, now what?
What is valuable? That is the point I've always made. Like, what is valuable?
Yeah.
Like, again, I'm not just going to be like, oh, I'm calling up. Real estate prices are up. Did you know that?
Didn't know if you've seen the news.
Yeah. Have you heard the news? Interest rates are down.
Yes.
I just wanted to provide that valuable information that you probably haven't seen yet on Twitter or on Facebook or anywhere that you can get the news at instantly now.
Right. Yep.
And so that's the point is we haven't learned how to truly provide value, which is we got to be the guy. We got to be the person, right? You're wearing that oversized trench coat. I got it here. I got it here. I got a guy for you. I got a person for you.
Yeah.
So if you were that and I came to you and I was like, oh, Brian knows. Brian, I need this. And Brian's like, I got you.
Yeah.
And then what you did, Brian, is that you went into the portal and you said, hey, Nick needs XYZ. And then all of a sudden I get a call from your concierge team is like, hey, by the way, we're shopping around for XYZ, et cetera. How valuable would that be?
Huge. Not only would I feel like I have a concierge that's taking care of my home ownership experience, I'm going to remember my real estate agent. They're going to be at the top of my head all the time.
Do you know why people love the American Express, Platinum and Black Card and these other high-end credit cards?
I was in Chicago recently, and on short notice, I wanted to go to a nice steakhouse, and the one that I really wanted to go to said no. I have not called the Platinum Concierge in a long time, but they got me into a different one that was even better, that I had no reservations available online, nothing, none of that stuff. And I'm telling you, you only need to experience that once and they really come through for you, and you are a raving fan. I am a raving fan of American Express because of two things. I wish every real estate agent ran their business like American Express runs there. One, if you really need something, they really are there for you. Their concierge team is actually quite valuable. And two, they are the nicest people you'll ever meet in your entire life. We had a situation with one of our organizations where we ran up a really high Amex bill because we were doing a big project and nobody was monitoring it. And so they shut our card off because they thought it was they're like, why are you spending so much money so quickly? And so it got shut off. And it's like the middle of the Christmas season. I don't even remember what day it was, but it might have even been a weekend. And I called them and they were like, oh my gosh, it looks like business is going so well. You're making so many charges. Like, and they're like, hey, we just need to see you pay some of this down so we know that it's not always going to be a balance. And I was like, okay, yeah, we spent a lot of money on a project. I'll make a payment today. And so anyway, it never got turned off again once we had that conversation and they kind of understood the flow of our business, how the cash flow went. But like, they made me feel so good on the phone that like I wasn't even upset that our card had gotten turned off. I couldn't say enough about their customer service.
And again, you're raving about them. By the way,
I just told everybody here, go apply for an Amex. They're awesome.
We get credit for it, so you should put your
use our affiliate link.
No, but you raved about them while they also told you to pay your bill down.
Yes.
So like again, I want people to pick up on that because that's the point of like owning your database like it's your only asset.
Yes.
Build that concierge team. You don't have to do it. Get residualagent.com/waitlist. Get on that wait list. Again, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to be a part of that. But this is something, again, those 36 touches, if you have something going on, like the Good Home team is doing we have 300 tickets to the Dallas Zoo. So we do the Takeover the Zoo event. And we've changed it this year. So we've always evolved into, it's a lot easier to call someone up to invite them, especially if you haven't talked to them in a while. And be like, hey, Jesse, I know I haven't talked to you in a couple of years, but one, I apologize. How's everything going?
Right.
Oh, it's going well. You lost your job. I'm so sorry. You started Tour Studios. Awesome. TourStudios.com. I'd love to shoot a podcast there. But you go into and saying, hey, by the way, I just want to invite you and your family to our Takeover the Zoo event that we're having here in May. Would that be something you're interested in? Because we only have a limited amount of tickets, and I want to make sure that if you're interested, so I can reserve those for you.
Easy.
Even if they say no, what does everyone love?
The invite.
Yep. Because what do you do? What do I always tell you?
I just want the invite. I don't want to go.
That's me.
I just want you to.
Brian
wants to know that you're thinking about him.
Brian will always tell you, Nick wants the invite, but he'll never go.
Nick's never going to come. But he gets mad if you don't invite him.
Yeah.
So this is actionable. 36 touches mean your people need to be touched by you 36 times a year. Okay, so simple. 12 of them right there are email. If you want to do your market report, your newsletter, things like that. Really, more than them can be emails, but that's default right there. They need at least 4 phone calls from you a year. Right. So once every 90 days, pick up the darn phone and call your people, ask them how they're doing. Guess what? Some of those phone calls can be you inviting them to your community events that if you're doing 2 to 3 times a year, now we're at about 20 touches right there. I haven't even talked about anything else like your concierge team, reshopping them for their rates on different things that they're paying for as homeowners a couple of times a year. Now we're at about 22 touches right there. Right. These start to add up. What you need to do, you could literally, when we were running Livian, I could show you on a whiteboard what your 36 touch experience looked like. Every single thing that when you came into our database, this is how you were touched by us every single year. If you don't have that as an agent right now, as soon as you hang up from listening to this episode, go and build your 36 touch campaign and then put it in play one layer at a time.
Need help with that? Just paper it out and then take a photo or build it out and talk to your Claude AI. Claude will go build that out visually and help you step by step start to implement that.
100%.
So your AI coach, your AI assistant, or maybe your AI accountability partner can help you put all that into place. Yep. And then, as we were kind of talking about this is something that, this helps you become more the true expert. And there's some people like 7-step playbook to get more business and to take it, and you're going to hear build the trust of building the trust through understanding the cost of homeownership framework.
Sounds boring, but it's true.
Because here's what will end up happening is like maybe you work in a lot more of the first time home buyer segment. Like did you understand, Brian, when you bought your first home and don't answer that yet? Don't answer the question I'm about to ask you just yet. This true cost of homeownership framework, what that means is that we want to really show people like what does it cost to own a home through your mortgage, your interest, your taxes, your insurance. Maybe there's homeowners, maybe the average estimated utility bills.
PMI.
Right? We have to help people understand that we're not just worried about what your monthly mortgage is going to be. You've got to understand how much is insurance going to be? How much is the overall cost to maintain? Because someone could go get a mortgage and afford it, then you start throwing in everything, all the other little things, and now it pushes them into we're house poor and we can't afford. We're barely bumping up against being in the negative every single month.
Well, I think one of the reasons this is important is because deals are falling apart at a relatively high rate right now. I think we could all probably agree on that. I can tell you in our transaction management organization, we see it every day because we see the amount of contracts we're taking versus closings and terminations and things like that. I think right now agents are not equipping their buyer clients well enough to understand the true cost of home ownership, and it may be affecting the transaction.
When they're not experts on it, they need to understand. They're still, like I've heard agents still use and estimate wrong property insurance.
Yeah.
They're using, I was like, I would love to get the insurance that you're quoting, right? They need to understand where property taxes are. You know, for the first time ever, by the way, my property taxes went down. I haven't experienced that in a long time.
By the way, as part of your 36 Touch campaign, do you have a preferred insurance partner who's helping reshop all of your clients every single year and making a phone call to them on your behalf and saying, hey, I'm part of Nick Good's, team. One of the things that he provides as an agent is a complimentary policy audit every single year to see if we can save you money on your homeowner's insurance policy. I would love I'd love to see if we can save you money. All I need is a copy of your current policy and I'll shop it and see if I can get you a better rate.
No, they don't. I'm mad.
Add that to your 36 Touch campaign, people.
By the way, getresidualagent.com/waitlist will have that. So that was something that's like, again, you can have this all in one place. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't designed to keep pushing you to the Get Residual Agent program, but it is something that if you see this is how we can provide value and become that expert and that go-to person where they're like, oh, Brian, my agent Brian, he's got a person for that.
Yep.
Oh, Brian, he's the expert when it comes to that. He knows where appreciation's going. He knows where the market's going because he provides me that. I read his newsletter every month, and it's not just BS AI stuff wrote it.
Well, so then what are my clients going to go tell the rest of their friends? Like when they go to the party and they're like, I'm just getting killed on insurance. It's renewed. It's like crazy. Like, oh, she's talked to my real estate agent. He hooked me up with his team. They reshot my policy. They saved me a bunch of money. Do you guys understand what we're talking about when we say providing more value?
Yes, it's
not just market reports,
right? And then again, there's a method to this madness. So follow us here. You need to become the Hyperlocal Data Authority, right? This is the expert, but you're not expert in all of Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Right. You need to narrow this down. DFW is not one market.
No, it's huge.
I'm an agent at DFW. Well, what do you serve, DFW?
DFW? No, you don't. When was the last time you went to West Fort Worth?
I used to do that way
too much. Yeah.
When we were setting expired appointments back in the day, I would get onto my team because they would send me to Burleson. And then I'm like, why can't we batch all the Burleson ones all in one day?
Yes, exactly.
Because they would send me to Burleson on a Monday and I would be then in Plano on Tuesday and then back in Burleson on Wednesday. I'm like, guys, can't we just
Crowley, man, it's so far. I remember driving so far for some of these. We are a huge metroplex, but your people don't care what's going on in every part of the market, every part of the metroplex. So especially your database, you need to find ways to become the hyper-local data authority. People very much care about what's going on in their area. People love to talk about what's going on in their area. Oh my gosh, go join an HOA of any sort and join their Facebook group. People love talking about what's going on in their area. So the more that you can do, and again, this is why we have some crazy tools available to us now in this marketplace with AI and all these other types of things, we can become the hyper-local data authority on many different areas that our people live in and continue to provide them information and value on what's going on in their area that they do find useful because people love knowing more about what's going on in their home, their neighborhood.
Jesse, let me ask you, go to tourstudios.com, but let me ask you, how have your videos been doing as you've been picking on cities and areas? How much have your views gone up and your subscriber growth on your YouTube channel?
Dramatically. One of the biggest ones is on TikTok. People love hyper-local conversations on TikTok. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they do well. But I mean, I've got some that are 20,000 views, 40,000 views, and I've never had that on TikTok. And it's the simple fact of, talking about certain
it's trending
areas.
Topics, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about trending topics, and you can go and ask, you can have your AI assistant research trending topics in the area that you want to really focus on. It could be, hey, what's going on in 75252?
Yeah.
We're here. This is where we shoot this podcast from, here in Dallas. 75252. What is the trending, hot topics that is going on? You can Google, you can even do Google searches for that. And then you can do your videos, you could do your post about it. You could make little video shorts over it.
100%. That's what it says. How do you deploy it, right? Many different ways. It's usually not a deployment problem. It's an information problem. I haven't taken time to become that local expert. Once you get a cadence around that, especially using AI, the deployment is usually not your problem.
I'm going to tell you right now, my wife, Heather, is the hyperlocal real estate expert. She doesn't even have her license on homes that have come up for sale and under contract and how long they've been on the market in 75072.
Really?
She's like, oh, I've seen that one already. I'm like, are you just on the real estate app?
Is she already looking for the next home?
She just loves looking at what houses come up for sale, the price that's going on, and then she'll send them to her friend group. And I'm like, are you guys moving? No, we just love to know what's on the market.
And they're going to think about you guys. Yeah,
yes.
For they know referrals 100%.
Yeah. So you could ask her. She's like, I know that one, 4 bedrooms. I know that floor plan. I know. Oh, that one doesn't have any updates. If you, as a real estate agent, and people are talking to you, and you heard Heather, she had her license, and you were looking at McKinney in that area, you would know already that she's the hyper local expert for that particular area of town.
You should be. We went to an open house 2 houses down from us the other day, and then you go in, and then you're so nice to the agent, and you're like, oh, this is beautiful, and then you leave, and you're like, that house. It's not nearly as good as our house, man. We saw that floor plan whenever we were looking. It didn't work for us at all.
Yeah, or you judge the agent because they don't really know the area.
Yeah,
right. So look, just focus on becoming the hyper local expert and publish content around it.
Is Hot Topic still around? By the way, they are.
Is it?
There's a few of them.
Is that where Jesse shops there? How did you know that?
I believe it.
Because
I remember seeing it in one of the malls at some point.
Are malls still around?
There's a couple of them.
I'm going to go get a Slipknot t-shirt.
One's about to be a Dallas Stars headquarters. Hey.
Yeah.
Is it finally breaking news? Is it out there?
No, it's not yet.
Yeah.
But that is some local data you should stay up on.
That's right.
Yeah, you could be publishing that if you're focusing on that west side of Plano. Yeah. I would be talking about that and the impact it could have on values or traffic, on cool things that it would attract. So
we've got some inside sources who say it's a done deal.
No, 99%.
99%.
Never a done deal.
Never a done deal. But come to our next realtor meetup over there.
And then let's number five out of this 7-step playbook, which we've talked a lot about it already. Deploy AI to out-respond every competitor.
Here's the thing. If you're generating leads in your business now outside of just referrals, like you are generating leads through your website, you're paying for leads, whatever. If you are not out-responding everybody else using AI, stop what you're doing after you do the first thing I told you, and then go learn how to deploy AI to be at least your first line of defense for lead responses. If you don't respond to a lead within 5 minutes, your conversion rate goes down drastically. And AI is a tool right now, whether it is integrated through your CRM, which there are many that have these natively, or you're doing it through some sort of integration like API call, which, by the way, if you just talk to AI, will probably tell you how to set all these things up. You need to be using AI to increase your response time. That's going to set you up for more warm at-bats, more warm conversations.
You know how I kind of view all this is, I remember before, and this was kind of before websites were still a thing, but in 2008, 9, 10, I could tell you that there was a large amount of agents that I would network with that actually didn't have a website.
I remember whenever Playster started to become big.
Yes.
And that was kind of like, for me, it was kind of the first experience where a lot of agents got their first website.
Yep.
And that to me was kind of eye-opening because a lot of them didn't have websites before.
And then you'd also, like a lot of the websites now, you just assume it has IDX capabilities. Like back then they did. My first website, I spent money on it, and I was like, oh, it doesn't have an IDX function, and you had to pay extra for that.
A lot more,
and I
too.
didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So I was sending traffic to it, and people were getting pissed because I was said, oh, come search for Plano Homes for Sale, or Richardson Homes for Sale. That's where I lived at the time, and no homes were pulling up, and so they were emailing me complaining that
You're like, well, buy a house with me and I can have the money to turn on the IDX
Yeah.
feature.
So
So when you buy your next one.
I'd have to take all the leads and then put them into my MLS data source and turn on the MLS
searches. Yep.
It was very nuanced. And so now it's like, brokerages right now, 97% of brokerages are saying agents only are using AI, or they're using AI, but mostly only for listing descriptions. Right. And I'm going to tell you right now, like, that if you don't proofread that, it will definitely mess up your listing descriptions. And most people know if it's AI written.
It's almost, I mean, I don't know how many people are making their decisions off listing descriptions in these days anyway. I think most of it's pictures, but it's so obvious when AI, it uses, okay, here's one thing. If you're going to have AI write your listing descriptions, I get that's time saver. Tell it to calm down. Calm down on the adjectives. Calm down on the adjectives. Not everything is opulent. Let's calm down. Tell it to talk like a human being. Tell it to talk like you. That'll help you a little bit.
If it talks, mine spells words wrong.
Spell a couple words wrong. And don't put, what's the extended hyphen?
M dashes.
M dashes.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
condense the amount of M. I want to know if there's a way to Google this. The amount of M dashes that existed in written form on the internet pre-2021 and post-2021.
So I'm going to tell you right now, I like using that. I always typed with that before AI. And now I can't do it because everyone then thinks it's AI.
I think it's AI. I use it occasionally. I mean, I'm a writing major, so I do know when to use an M dash when it's appropriate, or use a semicolon or a colon or a comma.
I just like the way it looks.
It's
I
a
like
stylistic preference, but it's the only stylistic preference that AI seems to have.
It's the same way that I like to look at the ... I'll type in a ... even though it shouldn't be there. I just like the way it looks.
They're called ellipsis.
Yes. Yes.
dot.
But so in our CRM system, we have our amazing AI assistant. Her name is Gabby. And Gabby gets deployed 50 times a day, no more than that, because you don't want to get blocked by carriers.
Right.
So really it's 250 a week, no more than 50 a day. And I would tell you how awesome it is when I get a notification from Gabby that pings me that says, hey, Nick, reach out to Brian. Brian is looking at, he wants more information on some houses in McKinney. And he's already teed up for a phone call.
Yeah.
It gives me a summary description, or that it will tell me that, hey, he's been, it'll show me everything that you've been looking at. So Gabby, our AI assistant, is amazing. If you don't have that, one, you should get a newer CRM system that has it, incorporated in for, hopefully next to nothing, or you can get a third-party system that will do it.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of this stuff is using AI to tell you how to integrate these things. It'll integrate with just about any system through API calls, so you probably can already do it with whatever you're using.
Brian, what is number 6 out of this 7-step playbook?
Number 6 is to add revenue that doesn't depend on a closed sale, which, again, when you start to think about like a business owner rather than just an individual sales agent, you realize that there is a much bigger pie that you can capture out there that doesn't just depend on the commission that you receive at closing.
So what we wrote here, 2008, the agents with diversified income,
Yes.
they were able to stay calm, cool, collected. By the way, if you go in our Facebook group, DFW Realtors, Jason Northcutt, he was a lender back in 2008, and he had some tough times. He is saying that 2008 is tougher than today. I disagree with that. I respect his response. I think today's market's a lot tougher than the 2008 market was.
Yeah.
Go listen to last week's show and you can see the reasons why I think that is.
I think there's a thing about, well, one, everybody experiences things differently. So in 2008 was certainly harder for some people than this market, and vice versa. I think we tend to not give credence to how hard things are when we're going through them, and we realize how hard they were in hindsight, but every day we're just getting up and living every day, right? So I think that we'll look back on this particular market and go, wow, how do we get through that? In hindsight, it'll seem harder than it seems in this moment, because every day if you just get up and you're working,
you live your 24 hours and you keep moving on. You don't stand. Yeah, I don't sit here to ponder on how hard these things are. So I can understand 2008 seeming harder than right now. And then when we get to the next bubble in 2036, we'll be like, man, 2026 was so hard.
Yeah, no, yeah. But again, the agents that in 08 that went through that financial collapse, that maybe had their income, they had success right before that. The agents that had that diversified income or maybe that side hustle income, they survived. And I'll tell you, there's so many agents I could go back and remember that they had some type of. I remember Scentsy, I think it was that. Wax,
the candles.
The candle it was
like wax.
It was wax, and then you bought the heater, and then it put it on and melt, and it the fragrance for your home, and people were selling those to agents for open houses and listings and everything else like that. I know people that a lot of they were hurting so bad on their sales income that they used that kind of secondary income as a way to be able to ride out that downturn.
And good for them. That's the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes, and they still utilize their real estate connections and to still sell, which is what we talked about early in the show with the Get Residual Agent, as well as you could look at property management referrals. I know HomewardDFW.com, Dana Wynn and Duncan O'Donnell, who are property managers who do an amazing job. You're wearing the hat, I'm wearing the shirt. That we have agents setting up and getting paid out referral commissions for every lease and every management agreement that is sent over and referred to us.
One of the biggest sources of new clients at Homeward is people that aren't going to quite be able to sell for what they expected for. The home's sitting on the market a little bit longer than they anticipated, and it makes more sense for them to turn it into a rental right now because they don't necessarily need the equity to get out of it to purchase their new home, or they can rent it at a rate that it doesn't affect their debt to income ratio. And so it makes more sense for them to hold on to it as a rental. We're helping agents educate their sellers on that, and then they're getting that referral. And by the way, eventually those people are going to sell their home and the agent's still going to get that deal. So you can increase your revenue because eventually I'll get this listing again. But right now I'll get the referral fee by referring it to a management company, again, providing more value for my client. I'm capturing more revenue, and then eventually I'll end up getting that listing later again.
100%. And the last of this is be the agent who tells the truth, right? I don't know. We've seen it, especially when maybe the economy and the market's not doing so well. Most agents are telling their clients what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Right. They pricing high to win listings, promising rate drops. Remember it was date the rate, marry the house, date the rate. Maybe promising rate drops that aren't coming because they don't know.
Yeah, we think rates will probably come down in like the mid fives next year. Do you remember times we said that in like 2022, late 2022, early 2023? And we said this on some of our other shows. I called that out. I was like, why? Why do you think that? Just 'cause?
Look, even this year we were expected to have lower rates, right? And that we had agencies,
I'm always
institutions
just baffled by this.
telling us that
telling you
rates were
guys,
gonna drop.
I mentioned this on I think last week's episode. If you've never read The Signal and the Noise by Nate Silver, go read it about how we make predictions and why. You'd be fascinated by the amount of economic predictions that are made for the wrong reasons. Many of them bureaucratic. Many of them are people trying to get a notoriety, a foothold in their career. If you're not active, then you don't have a voice in the conversation. The amount of real thought that goes into some of our economic forecast is abysmal. Like truly, don't listen to agencies that tell you things are going to happen. They almost never do. It's just wild. I know, sidebar, but like when we talk about being the agent that tells the truth, or like always talking, and we listen to lenders like rates are going to come down. I just was like, why? Like fundamentally, why? So anyway, I say all that to say, do you know what your prospects respect? Expertise. And that doesn't mean you have to be the expert in everything. It means just tell the truth about what is happening, what has happened, where we're at currently right now, and help your people make an educated decision, right? This is a great example. You want to go and you're going to go to a listing appointment. You worked really hard on this. This is a referral or an expired or whatever. They have a misinterpretation of what their home should be priced at because they lived through the COVID days a few years ago, and they still think their home is probably worth 10% more than it actually is.
I'll tell you, when I bought my house last year, 24, I think it was, right?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And when I was negotiating with it, I got a $40,000 in seller credits to buy my rate down. And I, used a great lender, but I was talking to the other lenders about it, and I couldn't tell you how many lenders told me that I was wasting my money using that $40,000 to buy the rate down, because in 2 years you have to look at the cost of that $40,000, what I could use it for versus the rate buy down, because I would refi it within 2 years.
Right.
And I just, one, I didn't really see that.
Right.
And two, I was like, I'm gonna take the guaranteed low rate versus that higher rate at a much higher payment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you that, unfortunately, there's some buyers that would have listened to these other lenders who are very well respected.
Mm-hmm.
And not that they told me what I was wanting to hear or needing to hear. I think that sometimes there's some self-serving interest to say, hey, this higher rate, we're going to refi you in 2 years to try to get that business back. So we've got to kind of look through that noise as well.
There was millions of conversations around the 2004 and 5 era that went something like this. Why don't we just lock you into this loan now? And in a few years, when the rate adjusts, you'll have enough equity you can just refinance the home. It's really never going to affect your payment.
Then values dropped.
What if you couldn't refi?
Oh, you don't want to talk about that because you're going to make more money.
What if you can't, though?
You're going to be in a better financial position in 2 or 3 years, right, Brian? That was the question.
I mean, look, 2 or 3 years from now, you're probably going to be making a little bit more money. You think you'll be probably making a little bit more money in 2 or 3 years?
Who's going to say no to that?
Right. And if your rates adjust, we can always just refinance, because, this is just your teaser rate, but we'll refinance you into your long-term mortgage in 3 years.
Look, be the honest agent. Just look, it's tough. Sometimes, like, I know it feels like you're going to talk yourself out of a deal or not get the deal because you're telling them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. But more often than not, you're going to have those clients for life. You're going to win more deals than you lose. I promise you that. So that is episode 10 in the books today, Brian.
Go out. If there's 1 or 2 things you take away from this, one, use the technology that's available to you in your business, and go out and work your database and use tools to build your campaigns like that is your only asset. As a coach, I just cannot harp on this enough. The people that you need to do business with to hit your goals are almost positively already in your world. You're just not capturing the amount of available referrals. And if you build out the systems to continue to actually provide real value to them, not just some flashy stuff that you feel like is value because it's a market report or whatever, I guarantee you, if you picked up this thing and looked at all the people in there and asked what type of value you could truly provide to them, there's 50 deals a year minimum in your phone right now.
The systems is your leverage.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
All right. Episode 10, go leave us a review, subscribe, do all the good things, join the DFW Realtors Facebook group. If you want to know who sponsors this, just reach out to us. DFW, so Homeward Property Management, homewardDFW.com. If you're looking for a remodeling and maintenance company, ProCare Home Solution, ProCareDFW.com, as well as Jesse will make you look amazing. He loves to use the AI thumbnails just to mess with me and Brian. So go to TOREstudios.com, TORE Studios.com.
We will see y'all next week.
DFW, turn it up.